everyone. In this video, we'll be working on how to create a login form and how do you can connect this login form to MySQL. So we do create a login form using a PHP, Angular as well as a jQuery. In the first video, we'll be seeing how does the form can be purely created using a PHP and so how does the communication can be happen purely using a PHP as well as a MySQL. Yeah, I do use Bootstrap CSS for creating this form. Okay, so let's get started. So I'll use PHP Storm as ID to create my form. So I create a new project. Okay, so I give some form. I name to my form. So I just give it as a login form. Okay, so I just to create it. Yeah. So once you've been created, in this video I'll be teaching you how the PHP can be created connected to a MySQL. So I'll be creating one PHP file and I name it as index. Yes, good. So I'll be creating a normal HTML here. So since the PHP can be embedded with HTML, so I go with this. So then some part of our head with some title. So I just write it like what we have is a login form. Okay, so then inside a body, okay, I directly jump into a login form. To create a login form, so I take a help of the bootstrap. So I have an include folder in my things where I collect all the almost all framework or the libraries which you have. So bootstrap is one of the famous frameworks for the front end. So I just do copy this one out and I paste it in my project. So I bring the bootstrap in. Okay, so yeah, better. So now how do I can add it? So I can add it using a link tag, link some, I give a relation as a style sheet and some h reference. Yeah, h reference I give bootstrap.min.css. So the bootstrap has been came inside my system, so I can use that one right now. So I take a div, so I take one class, I call it as a container. Okay, so then I go with the div, so I take class, I go with a column system, so I take my login form to take four large columns, and then I push this column to a four sides, so my login form come in a center, right? So because its entire screen has been divided into a 12 column, if you push it to a 4 column on the left, obviously the 4 column login form will come in a center. So that's what we have. So then I take one div, so I take a class, so I take a panel to build this one, so I take panel. Okay, so we have a multiple panel, but I always prefer the panel primary for the login form. So I go with this, then so I create class with a panel heading. Okay, so then I do create a one more div class with a panel body. Okay, so this entire part in my panel, so inside a heading, so I just write h1 is a login form, or I just say admin login, that would be better. Admin login, and I bring this admin login in the center. So you can use a bootstrap, otherwise you can use normal CSS text align center, so they'll also will be work for you. Okay, so let me just see this one, how does this thing will work. Yeah, it actually come over here, so it says a login form. Okay, so perfect. So we have a, I'm using a XAMPP to run this one. Okay, I just bring this one little down so I can give some padding to our body. So that just to bring it down, so I give padding top is just 4%, right? So, but I always never prefer the inline CSS. You better go with the embedded or a document CSS. But since it's just for a demo, I've been using an inline CSS. So now my form just looks like this, which has been come little down. So I'm going to bring this one out, the username and the password, and then I'm going to connect it to a database. Okay, so here, so I'll be taking the div. I take one class as a form group. It's just a documentation of a CSA. You must need to know to do this. Then I take one label out and I say username, Okay, so then I take a password, sorry, I take a input, I take a type is equal to text, and then I give a, yeah, input type, and then I give a class as a form control. Okay, I'm going to take it from it, and it can provide you some name and provide your name as a unit. This is the only case if you are sending a request from a PHP, the name is required. Otherwise, if you are using a jQuery or Angular, name is not required here. So you just directly go and go with the ng module. There you can access with the ID. Yes, so I just copy this one out, and now I make it as a password. Okay, so here the name will be a pass. I just take this one as a pass, and then one button. I'll be adding one button. So I take a type is equal to, you can give it as a submit or a button. So I give it as a submit. Okay, we'll go with this. The class I take it as a btn, is a bootstrap button. Then btn primary, since my panel is also primary, I prefer to go with the primary, it looks better. So then btn block, it makes a button the entirely to a one particular block, right? So I just write it as a login. Okay, so the button text will be a login. So now we'll see how does this thing will work. Yeah, so we got this username, password, and the login. This is a normal form that have been created using a Bootstrap. Bootstrap always makes your document more beautified. Okay, so now how do I can create a database? First of all, I'll be using a XAMPP. So using a XAMPP, I'm going to create my database. So I have a localhost. So I go with a PHP admin. Okay, here I'll be creating one database. So the database name I give it as the same login form. So I write it in a short form. So the database will be created. Now inside a database, I'm going to create a table as a login. Yeah, so I have four forms into it. Okay, first of all, I'll be having a ID. Then we'll be having a username. We have a password. Yeah, then I take one active flag, right? So just to notify whether the particular row is active or not. Active flag can take only two values, 0 or a 1. So I take ID as an integer, the username as a varchar. So I specify some 50 character of username. Password again I specify some 50 character. Active flag I just tell it to take a one character here, and but I make the ID always as a primary key as well as auto increment, right? I tick on auto increment, so the key will be assigned automatically. It's not necessary you to give it. So I click on a save. Okay, so here my login form is got created. So I'm going to enter one row into it. So I go into SQL. So I write a SQL query, insert into my login values. I just give some values as a normal. So I give row 0, and the username I give it something like rohan at gmail.com, and then the password I'll give it as a 123, but you have to give it in a single code. Why? Because it's a varchar. So and then the active flag will be 1. So I just click on a go. Okay, so here the rows has been added. You can see this ID Rohan password. Now how do I can access it? Now I'm going to give a username and the password. If that username and the password matches with this username and the password, then I'll be giving login successful, otherwise a login unsuccessful, otherwise I'll be sending to a other page. Okay, so first of all, so I go here. So since it is a PHP file, what I have to do, I have typed the submit, but I don't have a form here. So what I do, I take the entire panel and I put it inside a form. So that is a better option what you have. So I go with a form. So I give some action. So action I give it as a null. So same page I just say, and method I prefer the post, right, rather than the this. And this entire panel, I cut this one out from here, and I paste it inside the form. So my entire panel, I maximize it. So entire panel came inside the form. That means when I click on a submit button, so it goes to this action. The action is null, means it will reload the same page. Now when I reload some page, now I need to do a authentication or a validation when the time I click on a submit. That means the page will be reloaded and I have to cut this one. Okay, so how do I can catch it? So that can be done using a PHP. So I can write the PHP anywhere, wherever you want it to be executed. So I write it particularly here. So after the HTML, or after the before the body ends, I just can write the PHP. It's left to you wherever you have written the PHP. And one more thing, the PHP will be executed by the server. PHP will be executed first rather than the HTML. Okay, so I'm going to catch the when the page has been reloaded. So I give one name to it. So there's a better. So I give name is equal to submit. Submit. If the submit is set, that means you had clicked on a submit button. So that's a simple. So I go with the if. So is set. I go with a dollar underscore post of a submit. If it is set, submit is the name of the submit button. If it is set, means it has been clicked. Yeah, there's a simple logic what you have. So if it is clicked, and then what you have to do, I have to take the value from the username and the password. So for that we have a name as a uname as well as a password. So I take two variables. So I take it as a dollar uname, dollar underscore post of a uname. Okay, so that's a one, and then I do it for the pass. So pass is another one. Okay, now how do I can connect with SQL, MySQL? For that reason, we need to bring one connection string. So what I always do it, I specially create the connection string in the separate file, and I call it using the include. So I create one PHP file, and I name it as some SQL, right? And here inside this, I declare one variable SQL. Remember this. This is a one connection string we are using it. MySQL I connect. You can see this. In the first parameter will be localhost. Localhost is nothing but the host. If you are using the other PC, then you have to provide the IP address of that particular PC. If the database is in the other PC, that will be the host. Then you have a username. My username will be a root. So I have some password. So as a Rohan SDIT. Okay, and then we have a database name. So I give a database name as a login form. So login is a table name and the login form is a database name. This you can check here. So root is a username and the run SDIT will be a password and the database name will be a login form. So that is a simplest one. So then I go to my index.php. So I'm going to call this one out here. So include what I set as SQL.php. So include is nothing but just it calls SQL.php and it just copies the line from SQL.php in the place of include. So when it has been copied, so then the value will go inside a $SQL. That means one variable will be created with a SQL which has a connection string. So this is a simplest one. Okay, now how do I can connect? So I have to write one query. So query, I'll write it in a one string. So I write it something like this: select star from login. Login is my table. Login where I write the condition. Username. Username is what? Username is a one which we have it here. You can say this is a username, this username, and this should need to be matched. Username is equal to, in the single quote, since the username is a varchar, I have to put it in the single quote, $uname. Okay, and I write it as a password is equal to, password is also a varchar, so I write it in a single code as a $pass, and I write active flag. I always check with the active flag. Why? Because if there's sometime you don't know that row, so don't delete it. You make the active flag as 0. So I make active flag is equal to 1. So then the query will be selected. Now, so if this query matches, that means this username and the password has been found inside the database. If it is found, means the login is successful. Simple as such. Now, so I put this one inside a result MySQL query. I execute it on a $SQL where the $SQL has been written. $SQL has been written inside SQL. You can check this. This is a $SQL, comma $str. So I just do this one stuff. So my result will be executed. You need a result, then you have to go with a MySQL fetch underscore sock or a row. Now I don't need a result. I just wanted to count how many rows are there inside a result. So that will be better. I can put it inside a if dollar underscore sorry MySQL num underscore row I num underscore row of rows of a dollar result. If it is greater than 0, that means at least one row is there. That means so I can put a alert, but I cannot put a alert directly. Alert is not for the PHP. Alert is for the HTML. So you have to put the alert. So how do I can make? I can put it inside a echo. So I can open one script. I open a script. So I close a script, and inside a script I put a alert. Why? Because alert is a JavaScript code, it's not a PHP code. Right? You can either put it in a PHP, you can embed into any H1 tag if you want. That is also can be possible. So I just give the login successful. Yeah. So then I copy this line. Then I put a else part. If it is not, then I just say login unsuccessful. Yeah. So I just say if the login is successful, otherwise the login will be unsuccessful. This is the simplest one. Purely using a PHP, you can do this. Now let me just run this one out. How does it work? So I go to my login form. So I know the username will be a rohan at gmail.com and the password will be a 123. So I give rohan at gmail.com and the password will be a 123. Click on login. So I got some error here. Let me just check something. Is set all underscore post of submit. So let me just reload the form once. I think we have to reload it. Rohan at gmail.com. Then 123. Yeah, it goes. It's a login is successful. Now I again say this Rohan at gmail.com and I write some password 1234. It gives login unsuccessful. Yeah, simple as such. So this how you can connect it, and now if you want to divert it to other page, that also can be possible. So I just create one result page here, some PHP page, or not a PHP, I'll go with the HTML because otherwise I have to rewrite the code for HTML. So I go some result page, result. So in the result page, so I just write one simple thing. So welcome to result page. So this is my result page. Now how do I can divert it from index? So you can use HTML, you can use a JavaScript to divert it. Otherwise you can use a PHP headers. PHP headers would be better because you directly divert it from the server side. Otherwise you want to divert it from the client side, that is also can be possible. If it is a login successful, then you can put a semicolon and you can write windows.location dot h reference, right, hyperreference, and you are making a hyperreference to go to where result.html, right? So if the login is successful, it will show you the login successful, and then it will divert the screen into a result.html. That is also can be a better option. So let me just run this one. Continue login successful. So we have Rohan, then 123. Okay, click on a login, login successful. It takes me to a result page, right? So this is how you can do it purely using a PHP. But the problem here is you cannot make the index.html. If you make index.html, then you cannot write the validation using a PHP. Index file cannot be added with a PHP. The PHP file can be added with a HTML as well as a PHP. So you can do a PHP here. If you want to go with the index.html, then you have to go with the Ajax call. The Ajax calls can be built using a jQuery as well as Angular. That is what I'm going to teach you in the next video. Thank you for watching.